In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, beyond the shimmering rings of forgotten planets, lies a planet so old that even the stars themselves have forgotten its name. The locals call it the world of sleepers. Long ago, this planet was home to a species unlike any other, an ancient and mighty race known as the Zithari. They were said to control the very fabric of time and space, creating wonders no one could imagine. But one day, without a sound, they vanished. Not a single one of them was seen again, and the stories of their existence were lost to the winds of time. The Zithari left behind great monuments and strange structures scattered across the planet's surface. But the most mysterious of all was a series of vast underground vaults, hidden deep beneath the planet's crust. These vaults were said to hold the most incredible secrets of the Zithari people, secrets lost to time, buried in frozen slumber. Many explorers dared to venture to the world of sleepers, hoping to find treasure or knowledge from the vanished Zithari. But none returned. The vaults were considered cursed, and stories of the silent vaults became legends among space travelers. One day, a brave crew of explorers, Captain Rhea, a seasoned space traveler, Tarek, a curious scientist, and Zora, an engineer, decided they would uncover the mystery of the Zithari. Armed with their spacecraft and advanced technology, they traveled across the stars to the fabled world. The journey took many months, but the promise of discovering a lost civilization's secrets was too great to ignore. When they arrived, the planet was silent, too quiet. The surface was a desolate wasteland, filled with crumbling ruins of ancient buildings that stretched high into the starry sky. The explorers followed the ancient maps left by previous travelers, leading them to the entrance of the vaults. They stood before a massive stone doorway, adorned with strange markings that no one could decipher. Zora, with her tools, worked for hours to break the seals, and finally, the door creaked open. Inside, the vault was vast and cold. Rows upon rows of cryogenic chambers lined the walls, each holding a frozen body, Zithari who had been preserved for who knows how long. Their forms were tall, slender, and majestic, encased in shimmering glass tubes. But their faces, those faces, were blank, as if even death had not freed them from their endless sleep. It was then that Tarek, eager to uncover the Zithari's secrets, found one chamber that seemed different from the others. Its glass tube glowed faintly with an eerie blue light. Tarek approached the chamber with wide eyes, his heart racing with excitement. "This one is different," he whispered, pulling out his tools to activate the chamber's controls. Captain Rhea warned, "Be careful, Tarek. We don't know what we're dealing with here." But Tarek, driven by curiosity, didn't listen. The chamber hissed and groaned as the freezing mechanism shut down. Slowly, the glass tube began to open, revealing a single Zithari lying inside, a being taller than any human, with skin that shimmered like stardust. When the creature's eyes opened, they glowed with an unnatural light. But instead of waking, it let out a terrifying scream that echoed through the vault, a sound unlike anything the explorers had ever heard. The air grew cold, and the walls of the vault seemed to tremble as if the very planet itself was awakening from a long slumber. Before the explorers could react, the ground beneath them cracked open, and the entire vault began to collapse. The cryogenic bodies of the Zithari began to thaw, and something ancient, something powerful, was stirring deep within the planet. The explorers ran, but the vault's entrance was sealed shut behind them, trapping them inside. The last thing Tarek saw before the darkness overtook him were the glowing eyes of the Zithari, staring into his soul as if they knew far more than they should. The legend of the silent vaults grew darker that day, as it was said that the Zithari never truly disappeared. They were waiting for the right time to awaken. As the explorers' ship drifted away from the planet, they whispered to each other in the cold silence of space. No one spoke of what had truly happened that day, but one thing was certain: the silent vaults would never be the same. Weeks passed since the explorers left the world of sleepers, but the haunting echoes of that day stayed with them. Captain Rhea, Zora, and Tarek had returned to the safety of their ship, but the images of what they had witnessed on that forsaken planet lingered in their minds. Every creak of the ship, every flicker of the stars outside, seemed to whisper of something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. As they made their way through the cold emptiness of space, Tarek couldn't shake the image of the Zithri's eyes. They weren't just glowing, they were alive, filled with an intelligence that seemed far beyond human understanding. Something inside him whispered that this was not the end of the story, it was only the beginning. One night, Tarek sat alone in the ship's observation room, staring out into the starry expanse. The ship's AI, Ethra, hummed softly in the background as he flipped through the ancient data they had gathered from the vaults. There was one part of the Zithri's history that had not been fully understood, the legend of the eternal sleepers. The sleepers are not just bodies, the ancient texts had said. They are vessels of power. The Zithri used them as weapons in a war against the stars themselves. Tarek's fingers trembled as he read further. They could bend the fabric of reality, but they were too dangerous. So, they were put to sleep, hidden away in the vaults, locked away from the rest of the galaxy. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the blinking stars outside. And now they've woken up. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared, pulling Tarek from his thoughts. He rushed to the control room, where Rhea and Zora were already monitoring the readings. "We're picking up a strange signal," Rhea said, her voice steady but filled with concern. "It's coming from the world of sleepers." Zora, tapping away at the controls, added, "This isn't just any signal. It's a call. It's reaching out to something. Or someone." The crew gathered around, staring at the screen as the signal pulsed. It was rhythmic, like a heartbeat, growing stronger with each passing moment. And with it, the stars seemed to flicker strangely, as though they were dimming and brightening in sync with the signal. "It's coming from deep within the vaults," Zora murmured. "The Zithri are calling something. But what?" Captain Rhea's face hardened. "We need to go back." Back on the world of sleepers, the ground was quiet, too quiet. The massive vaults, now half destroyed from the explorers' earlier encounter, still stood like silent monoliths. But something was different. A crack in the earth had opened, and from it, a strange, dark energy poured into the sky. The stars above seemed to shimmer with unnatural colors, purple, green, and blue in swirling patterns that had never been seen before. As Rhea's ship landed near the ruins of the vaults, the crew could feel the shift in the air. It was colder now. There was an unnatural stillness to the atmosphere. They stepped out of their ship, their boots crunching against the frozen ground. The air around them hummed with energy, and the faintest whispers echoed through the wind. It was as if the land itself was alive, watching, waiting for them. Tarek led the way, his mind racing. The Zithri didn't just disappear, he murmured to himself. They were waiting for something. They were waiting for this signal. They approached the vault's shattered entrance, the dark energy swirling around them like a storm. The light from their torches flickered as they stepped inside, the eerie blue glow of the cryogenic chambers casting strange shadows on the walls. Then, in the deepest part of the vault, they saw it, a massive, glowing sphere suspended in the air, swirling with cosmic energy. It was unlike anything the explorers had ever seen, its surface shifting like liquid, as if it were alive. "This is it," Tarek whispered, stepping closer. "The heart of the Zithri. This is what they were protecting. It's not just a vault, it's a power source." Zora's voice was barely audible. "And they're using it again." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. The sphere pulsed with an immense force, and the Zithri's bodies inside the vaults began to stir. The explorers turned, horrified, as the once dormant creatures slowly began to wake, their eyes glowing with the same eerie light they had seen before. A voice, ancient and cold, echoed in their minds. "You have awakened us. Now you must pay the price." The vaults began to collapse once again, and the explorers found themselves trapped. The heart of the Zithri pulsed with a deafening roar, its power now fully awakened. As the ship ascended back into the vastness of space, the crew could only stare at the planet below. The signal had stopped, but the echoes of the Zithari's awakening would live on. The question remained, what had they truly unleashed, and what did the Zithari want from them? And so, the legend of the eternal sleepers grew darker, their mysteries deeper. The explorers had uncovered more than they had bargained for, but they had yet to discover the true power of the Zithari, waiting still, somewhere in the dark corners of the universe. The cruise ship hummed softly as they drifted farther from the world of sleepers, but the tension among them was palpable. Captain Rhea sat at the helm, her fingers gripping the controls as her eyes remained fixed on the fading planet below. Beside her, Zora and Tarek remained silent, each lost in their own thoughts. The echoes of their experience had not yet faded. Why did they leave it all behind? Tarek finally broke the silence, his voice heavy with wonder and dread. The Zithari, such a powerful race, hiding a power so vast beneath their feet. They didn't just vanish, they left a warning. Maybe they weren't trying to protect it from us, Zora murmured, looking over the data they had gathered. Maybe they were trying to protect themselves from it. Rhea glanced at her crew. The heart is something more than just an artifact. It's a force, a living thing. The Zithari didn't bury it, they sealed it away because they knew it would come back. As they spoke, the ship's sensors began to pick up something strange, faint, almost imperceptible readings. They were coming from the very edge of the galaxy, where no star had shone in centuries. Rhea turned to the console and widened her eyes. It's the signal again. But this time, it's stronger. Is it coming from the heart? Tarek asked, his voice filled with urgency. Yes, Rhea answered. It's traveling through the fabric of space itself. It's spreading. Zora, who had been analyzing the strange energy, furrowed her brow. If the signal's getting stronger, it could mean one thing. The Zithari were not just waiting for someone to awaken them, they were waiting for the right time to call upon something much older. Something that's been sleeping for far longer than even they have. Rhea's face grew pale as she grasped the implications. Are you saying the Zithari weren't the only ones who slept? Zora nodded. There's something much bigger than the Zithari in this universe. Something ancient, beyond our understanding. And it's waking up. Days turned into weeks, and the crew found themselves far from the world of sleepers, yet still within the pull of its ominous energy. As they traveled, they began to notice strange anomalies in the space around them. Stars would flicker out only to flicker back again. Cosmic storms would appear and vanish without explanation. And every time they tried to communicate with any space station or neighboring ships, their signals would be intercepted by the same strange, rhythmic pulse they had felt on the planet. Tarek spent sleepless nights researching, poring over everything they had discovered in the vaults. He stumbled upon an ancient Zithari text that had been partially decoded. It says here, "When the heart beats again, the sleepers will rise. And with them, the end of the endless dark shall begin." What does that mean? He stared at the text, his mind racing. The walls of their ship seemed to close in, and the sense of impending doom grew stronger with each passing moment. Captain Rhea stood by the observation deck, staring at the distant stars. We're not just dealing with the Zithari anymore. This is bigger than all of us. Whatever they were afraid of, we're going to face it. As if on cue, the ship's alarms blared again. Zora's eyes widened as she read the new data. There's something there. An enormous structure, beyond any known star system. It's moving. It's not just a ship. It's a city, but it's floating. It's heading straight for us. Tarek's heart pounded in his chest. The Zithari were right. They were just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The city, or whatever it was, loomed closer with every passing second. Its structure was vast and incomprehensible, a mass of glowing energy in twisted metal, pulsating with an ancient power. It seemed as if it were alive, its movement almost organic, as though it were breathing. The ship shook violently as the colossal entity drew nearer, sending shockwaves through space. "Get us out of here!" Rhea shouted, pulling at the controls. But it was too late. The ancient city had caught them in its grip, and the stars around them faded into nothingness. In the silence that followed, the explorers found themselves surrounded by darkness, yet not the void of space. This darkness was alive. It was waiting. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed in their minds. It was a voice so old that it seemed to reverberate with the memory of galaxies long gone. "You have woken us. Now, you shall join us in the eternal sleep." The walls of their ship shimmered, transforming into something else, something ancient, something cosmic. Their bodies froze, their minds ensnared by the power of the unknown city. And as the explorers fell into a deep, eternal slumber, they realized that they were not the first to awaken the ancient force. They were just the latest in a long line of beings who had stirred the slumbering darkness, and they would not be the last. The legends of the eternal sleepers, and the terrible power they had unleashed, would echo across the cosmos for eons to come. And so, the universe moved ever onward, with one question lingering in the dark corners of the galaxy: who will awaken next?